Going to go ahead and start. I just want to go ahead and welcome everybody, parents and students that are here for this presentation. Today we're going to cover some really important rules and safety features and emergency exit while on a bus. These things can be very overlooked when it comes to a child getting on a bus or off a bus, even when they're going on a field trip or a daily route that they're taking each day. It's very important that everybody's informed, and these practices are practiced and reminded yearly as well as monthly as weekly. As many times as you can practice, the better. Okay, kind of just going over the overview of the school bus safety. We're going to be talking about things like school bus stop safety, how to enter and come off a school bus, how to use the proper emergency exits on the bus, and loading and unloading, as well as being on the bus while it's moving, and those safety factors as well. Okay, jumping right in, we're going to go ahead and talk about the bus stop safety. This is the act where the student arrives at the bus stop, waiting for their school bus to come pick them up. It's very important to get to the bus stop about 5 to 10 minutes early before the bus gets there. This way that students don't get there too early and have to wait around, and if there's any kind of rain in the forecast, or if it's cold outside, or if it's hot, any of those examples, you don't want to be out there for an extended time to save you from any dangers as well. If you were to, for some reason, miss your bus, you don't need to walk to another bus stop that you know that your friend's at, or you know that the bus goes down the street to. At that point, the bus drivers are trained to understand that the procedures are to not pick that student up. So if you do miss your bus, the bus driver within this presentation is going to ask you to go back to your house and allow your parents to arrange driving expectations for y'all to when you get back to school. So once you get to your bus stop as well, we ask that all students stay at least 12 feet away from traffic. If this is a stop that is on the side of the road, for example, you never want to put yourself in harm's danger. You don't want these students to be out there on the road or even close to any kind of oncoming traffic, as well as being aware on the sidewalks as well. There could be bikers or joggers out there that could lead to some injury as well. So some other things we're going to talk about is when the bus comes to a stop, the procedures that we need to go through. While at the bus stop, you need to remember you don't need to talk to anybody, to speak to strangers especially. You're there to get on the bus as well. So if somebody were to approach you and act oddly or even try to speak to you, just don't need to speak to them. Try to carry on any kind of conversations that's going on. This will prevent any kind of safety issues within anybody being at the school bus stop that shouldn't be there. You also need to stay in groups as well. You don't need to wait off a distance from your group members that are going to get on the bus with you as well. When you're getting on the bus, you need to remember to stay in a single file line. This is going to prevent any kind of tripping or shoving or anything that's going on, and keep your safe distance away from the bus driver as well. You need to make sure you're staying away from the road, and remember to stay at least 12 feet away from that bus until the bus driver comes to a complete stop. While getting on the bus, you need to remember you don't need to have headphones on. Any kind of electronics that you have, you need to make sure those are stored away as well. For example, the bus driver could have some important information for you, such as that you're not going to be at this bus stop next week, or is there some type of road work going on, and there might be some kind of information that this bus driver is trying to talk to you about. And if you have headphones in, or if you're listening to music or something like that, this can be overlooked, and it can be dangerous if you're not getting proper information from your school bus driver. As you can see, here's an example of the bus from up high. It's a diagram. So around these bus areas, there's danger zones, and that 12-foot section that you see there in the orange is your 12 foot away from the bus that you need to be staying away until that bus driver gives you information to be able to load the bus or comes to a complete stop. Up there up front, you see that red area, a big red area. That is a tremendous amount of danger up front. On buses, there is a swing arm that comes out, and that is actually going to create a depth that you need to be at. For example, if that arm swings out at 7 or 8 feet, This is going to keep you a safe distance away from the front of the bus so the bus driver can keep their eyes on you at all times. Around the back, at no point you should ever go around the back to walk around the bus unless there's specific instructions from your bus driver to do so. That back rear right corner can be very dangerous, as the bus driver is used as a blind spot more or less, and the bus driver can't really see you at that point. All right, moving to slide 6. We are talking about the danger zones. It's kind of an illustration of that danger zone. You need to stay away from it as 12 feet as well. If you were to ever hear any kind of blowing of the horn while you're at your bus stop or getting off the bus or on the bus, you need to remember that that is a complete sign of danger. You need to stop what you're doing. This is why it's also important to have headphones in when the bus approaches. That way you can hear this horn. You need to come to a stop and be aware of what's going on to prevent any kind of serious harm. All right, moving along to slide 7. It's just another diagram. For example, that you need to stay 12 feet back. Now, this is a different angle. One of the most dangerous situations that could happen is crossing the street. So it's so important that you understand that communication at this point with a bus driver crossing the street is so key. You need to make sure you keep that 12 feet away from the front of the bus as well when you're crossing and staying around that yellow arm that swings out. You need to make sure that you have indications from your bus driver, communication-wise. They usually will come to a complete stop. And once that bus driver comes to a complete stop, at no point should you just go ahead and walk across the road at that point, because there could be oncoming traffic coming. The bus drivers usually like to let that first car come to a stop because they'll kind of act as a barrier for any kind of oncoming traffic to come first. But if there isn't any vehicles coming, you need to make sure you're communicating with your bus driver. Usually they'll wave you across, or they'll stick their head out the window and say, "Come on," and you need to go ahead and approach that bus with safety as well when you're crossing the street. All right, moving right along, we are going to talk about the danger zone. Again, it's still when you're coming off the bus, you need to understand that it's dangerous coming off the bus as well. We still ask you to keep that 12-foot danger zone as well. You need to make sure when you're getting off that bus, before you step on the road, the windows are clear when the doors open up, and this will give you indication to look left or right before stepping into that roadway, because as you can see in this diagram, the bus is the student's getting off the bus, but there still could be a car, for example, if there's something going on that could come around that bus to the left side. So you need to make sure that you're aware of your surroundings, and you make sure that you're looking before you get off that bus, staying in within that danger zone of 12 feet. All right, here's an example of a student exiting the bus. The student's actually properly looking to his right. As you can see, there's vehicles back there. What I was talking about in the previous slide, if that vehicle were to try to, for some reason, come around that bus, the rear side, that student would be in harm's danger if they never looked or were aware of it. So you need to make sure that there's no cars or bikes or motorcycles or joggers or anything that's coming down there. So always making sure that you come down those stairs with caution as well is very important. All right, here's another just an example of a student coming off the bus. Within this diagram, what we're trying to explain is once you get off that bus and you're in that danger zone, you need to make sure that your eyes are looking left and right the entire time, just to make sure you're surrounding anything around you. You need to make sure that there's no dangers around you, more or less. So that danger zone, once you clear that 12 feet, at that point you can go amongst your way and walk home or walk to the school. So you need to make sure that you're very, very aware when you're within that 12 feet danger zone. All right, so moving on to slide 12. Within crossing, as we explained early on, crossing the road while coming off the bus or on the bus is one of the most dangerous situations that you can be in on a student loading on and off the bus. It's very common that students need to get to the opposite side of the door from the road, and they're going to have to cross the road. So as you can see, the students exiting off the bus, they're walking within or out of that 12-foot danger zone. As I said, this school bus in particular on this one doesn't have this swinging arm, but that swinging arm will actually create that distance for you, even if it isn't at 12 feet. Even a little bit more depth within the situation is perfectly fine. Once you get to the step 3 here within this diagram, the first step's to look, walk, and then get to your 12-foot within your space of the safety zone. You need to make sure that at this point you're making eye contact with that bus driver. As you can see, the bus driver in the window at this point, if you were to come to a stop, she's going to look in both rear view mirrors as well as oncoming traffic, and they're going to wait for the best clear time to be able to cross these students across the road here. In this diagram in particular, once you get to the side of the bus, they want you to look as well, stop and wait, and continue to walk across the street and get that 12 feet distance once you get off the street of your safety and get out of that danger zone as well. At that point, you would commonly see sidewalks or grass or curbs or anything. You need to make sure you get off the road as well. Just the same kind of diagram here. If you were to get off the bus, just a heads up, if you're walking down the road at any time, you remember that blowing of the horn is such an important thing that is so critical, that you can understand that if you hear that blowing horn at any point, you just need to come to a complete stop of what you're doing and gain communication, eye contact with that bus driver, and they will guide you in the right direction of what to do. But if you hear that horn again, just remember to stop and be super aware of your surroundings, because you could be in a dangerous situation at that point. All right, so we talked about loading and unloading, maybe off the bus to your house and on the bus from your house. Now we're going to kind of hop into the unloading at school. So understanding that the importance of behaviors when unloading at school is super important. At this point, all rules don't just go out the window because you're at the school. There's still dangers out there that could be in a parking lot or at a drop-off zone within the school at any given area. So we still remember, we're still practicing our exit, our danger zones. We're still practicing crossing the roads proper, as we spoke before, using those diagrams and using those safety tips as well. So also getting off the bus, another topic that we need to discuss. If you were to get off the bus at any given time, at school or even not at school, another important note is to understand if anything were to fall out of your backpack or out of your possession at any given time, and it were to get under the school bus or even close to the tires of the school bus, at no point should you feel that it's okay to reach down for this item and think that it's okay to crawl up under the bus and get these items. If something like this were to happen, it's simply that you just need to have communication back with the bus driver. Let the bus driver know that, example, that you dropped your phone under the bus and it's by the tire and you don't want the bus driver to run it over. Don't go into a panic mode and think that you're going to lose your phone. A phone is a phone at that point. It's replaceable. But if you were to go into the bus for some reason, that bus driver, God forbid, wouldn't see you, it's to understand that that item is not worth it. You need to get the communication back to the bus driver, and they'll surely help you retrieve that item. All right, well, coming off the bus, still at school, and this goes for coming on the bus as well, and I think you'll see this later on in this slide. This is slide 15. So once you come to a complete stop and the doors open, we all don't need to rush to get off the bus. We need to make sure that we're getting up in an orderly fashion. We need to make sure that we're receiving our items prior to stop. We know when we're getting close to school. When you're coming off the bus, you need to make sure that you're using that door handle, that railing on the door handle. So you can see here in this example, that second student that is still walking down the stairs, he has a good grip of that, and he understands where he's walking. These stairs can get slippery if it's raining out, or if you're in snow somewhere up north or out west. These stairs can become very slippery. So if you were to walk down those stairs with no type of hand railing, and if you were to slip, you could hurt yourself. So understanding that handrail is there for a reason, and you need to make sure that you're using it daily and with practice, going up and off the bus. Once you get off the bus, you need to make sure that you're walking straight to the school. We're not worrying about what's going on in the parking lots. We're not running across the parking lot to say hey to teachers or students that are coming in vehicles. We need to make sure that we find teachers that are out there monitoring the bus stops, as well as any kind of administration that's out there as well. All right, so once we're coming off the bus, we're still practicing our 12-foot danger zones. We're realizing that where we're at is important as well. We realize that we don't have to cross the street, or we realize we do have to cross the street. We still need to make sure that we're going through these practices while we're at school. As I spoke here, it says do not wait for friends. Don't walk directly inside. These are kind of the same things that we've gone over a little bit earlier slides. I may have jumped ahead of myself a little bit, but that's okay. We can go over a review and just realize how important these things are while unloading at school as well. All right, so we need to discuss about having all our belongings before we in our backpacks before we're getting on the bus, and we need to make sure that we have all of our items that are received. So like I said, we know when we're getting close to either our bus stop or even at school, we need to make sure that we have all of our items packed up. This could delay the bus driver at this point, especially if you have a project maybe due one day and you're trying to sit there and collect all these items. You need to kind of start collecting your belongings prior to arriving to your home or your bus drop off or your school. Just remember that missing the bus is okay at this point. You don't ever at any point need to realize, even if students miss the bus, there will be administration out there and teachers to monitor this. But if you were to talk to a teacher, if you were to, for some reason, miss the school bus that delayed you, don't feel that you have to chase this bus down. I know speaking to parents here as well, and everybody can agree with this. Missing the bus is okay. It's going to happen. If it doesn't happen, then that's great. But if it doesn't happen, it's not the end of the world. You're not going to get in trouble for it. Just understand that never chase down a bus. Don't think it's okay to run after a bus because you missed it and it's in sight. Don't feel that you can run down there and put yourself in harm's danger at that point as well. All right, moving on to slide 18. So once we're loading the bus, we're still talking about communication within our bus driver. When we're loading the bus, we need to make sure that we make eye contact with the bus driver. If the bus driver's doors don't open, or they're looking down, or they're looking towards the back, towards another incident, don't walk up to the doors and think that just because the bus is stopped, they're ready for you to load. There could have been any kind of situation on the bus that the bus driver's trying to handle before they allow you on that bus. You got to realize these bus drivers are human as well, so they might be handling something that's going on. Just realize that at all times, the communication with eye contact with these bus drivers is so key. These windows are clear for a reason. Just understand that communication is key with everything, whether it's hand motions, nonverbal, or verbal communication. It's super important. All right, so if you were to, God forbid, for some reason, get onto the wrong bus, you need to make sure that you're telling the bus driver at this point, if you're on the wrong bus, that you accidentally loaded the wrong bus, and they'll take care of these situations. There's no reason to reach panic. It happens to little kids a lot more commonly than we understand, especially kindergarten-sized kids. All these buses look the same, so a lot of bus drivers now are kind of going to an animal instead of a bus number, because a bus number can kind of look confusing to people, especially if it's, for example, bus number 408B, for example. That's hard for a kindergartner to remember. So now they're kind of going to different shapes maybe, or turtles, or animals, or anything that indicates it's going to grab these younger educational kids. So if they ride on bus elephant, that's a lot easier for a kid to remember than a bus number. All right, so some more loading safety. We talked about using the handrails while getting on and off the bus. Once you get on the bus, you need to go directly to your seat. Most bus drivers have assigned seating. You need to make sure you're sitting in that seat each day and practicing that common practice. Once you're on the bus, if there's windows down, if it's hot outside, for example, excuse me, if there's any kind of head or arms out the window at this point, you're putting yourself in very, very, very harm's danger. So all objects, you don't need to throw gum, throw water. Your heads and arms definitely never need to be outside the window. There's a lot of potential hazards out there, tree branches, poles, a lot of things. It's not okay to stick your arm out the window and think it's okay. So if that window's down, it's down for a reason. It's to get a breeze inside the window and windows, try to cool off the bus a little bit. It's not for you at any time to stick your head or hands out the windows. All right, moving on to slide 21. So once we get to the bus and we get to our seat and we have all of our items collected, we need to make sure that once we get into our seat, it's very important that students need to understand that we don't need to be crawling over seats. We don't need to be standing on seats. We don't need to be jumping from seat to seat. We need to get on the bus and sit down in our seat as we would with our butt to the seat, and as well as our back against the seat and with our eyes forward. This is for your safety. If the bus comes to frequent stops, if a deer were to run out, they would have had to hit the brakes, or the bus driver had to come to a sudden stop for any kind of reason, that you would be in the safest position with your rear on the seat as well as your back against it. So make sure that you're seated properly with any kind of seat that you are. Some school buses have seat belts and some don't. Just make sure that you're seated properly the right way. Once you get to a railroad track, this is very commonly practiced. It is a federal law that all school buses must come to a complete stop at a railroad. And the windows the doors will open, they'll come to a complete stop. At this point, the bus driver is listening as well. So they're not just looking to see if a train's coming, they're listening as well for any kind of trains that come, especially if there's a lot of trees. They're listening for that train to come. So being quiet on that bus is very important. You need to make sure that once you approach a railroad, it needs to be common practice that that bus almost comes to a complete silence. So this is good to understand. If the bus is coming up and you know there's a railroad crossing, usually the bus driver might make an announcement, but to save a lot of heartache, it's just good common practice to understand to just be quiet. The conversations need to come to almost to a complete stop and allow that bus driver to have that safety practice. While getting on a bus, these bus drivers need to be treated like a teacher, administration. You need to understand that their rules and their directions need to be listened to the first time. There shouldn't be bus drivers that are having to be distracted with you talking loud, with you jumping from seat to seat. They have a job to do, and that's to transport you to and from where you're going. So to listen to their directions the first time is super important. So just make sure that you're respectful as you would be to anybody, and know that these bus drivers are just doing their job. So just make sure that you're listening to their rules the first time. We already talked about these always sitting forward with your back against the seat and your head facing forward. If there were to be any kind of common practice going on that it seems like there's bullying or any kind of mistreating of yourself on the bus, sometimes the bus driver doesn't always have attention of what's going on in the bus, especially towards the back. So if there's something going on, you need to make sure this bus driver's aware of it. If there's pushing, maybe something's leading to a fight, there's argument going on, there's no problem going and getting the bus driver's attention, maybe raising your hand. They have a rear view mirror to keep their eye on you, and just realize to let them know that something's going on back here. So let the bus driver know any kind of situation that you're discomforting in, and let them know what's going on. You need to make sure that you keep all items and all belongings off the walkway. Once you get on a bus, it's kind of a tight fit walking down the aisles. So understanding that putting your book bag or projects or skateboards or any kind of things that are going to block that way can lead to a dangerous hazard, as we'll shortly get into the exiting procedures within an emergency. So having these aisles clear is super important for safety as well. All right, so most bus drivers, as you know, they don't like any type of food, drinks, any kind of gum on their buses. You need to make sure that all trash can, or any kind of trash that you do have, maybe you're working on homework, or maybe you just have a piece of trash in your pocket, you need to make sure those belongings enter the trash can as properly as they need to. There's a trash can on each bus that is usually up to the front. So if you wait to come to a complete stop at your destination of getting off, you need to make sure that you get those items thrown away. Obviously, the bus is an extension of the classroom, so it's never okay to make sure that you don't have any type of drugs, tobacco, or weapons on you to prevent any type of, disciplinary actions that would come to a classroom would be the same on a bus. So practicing the common things of being at school are very important while you're on the bus. All right, obviously. Oh, you'd be surprised. So, you can't bring your pet bunny on the bus. I know that's funny, and I know we'll probably have some giggles out of that, but understand that you can't bring your pets and animals, whether they can fit in a backpack or not. We ask that all animals and pets stay at home. You don't need to bring any type of glass objects on the bus for obvious reasons. The bus might come to a complete stop, and you might lose your glass drink, and it would break on the ground at that point. It puts a lot of students in harm's danger. We don't have any type of bad language. As I said, the bus is an extension of the classroom. We ask that we don't have any type of electronics on the buses. Wear earbuds when exiting. We talked about how the importance of the safety of having your attention, verbal and nonverbal, is important. We don't know any kind of distractions from this communication. All bus drivers like a clean bus. You make sure that no food and gum gets stuffed between the seats. You can see at times where students know that they're not allowed to eat food, and they open something and eat it, and then they like to stuff the wrappers between the seats. This is not a good idea. There's cameras on the bus, and if the bus driver really wants to figure out what's going on, all they have to do is pull that footage. All right, moving on to the emergency evacuation portion. We like to go over this, and we will later on with our students, speaking to you parents, the proper evacuation. We like to do this on our slideshow as we're presenting today, but we like to also, during our PE times of the first week of school, we like to take our students out to the bus ramp and practice this. We like to show them how it's supposed to look. That way we can critique them and show them the way that things are supposed to be done in an orderly fashion. That way that they're not in a situation for the first time trying to practice these things because we talked about it. Practice with these younger kids is very key, so we like to use a whole week doing it. We might take 10-15 minutes one day, but if we can get it into an orderly fashion of practice, it becomes a lot more effective. There's studies behind it. So there's 3 ways that you can exit. The first common one that we'll practice is out the rear door. There's a red latch within this diagram that allows you to pull up that lever. You'll hear a big buzzing noise. We ask that smaller students and younger students commonly practice all the way through the middle school and high school grades that the student hears properly sitting down. We ask the first student to jump out if those teachers weren't there for some reason as they're helping that student off the bus. If that student was the first one out of the bus, we ask that student to actually be that teacher at that point. We ask the first person to jump off the bus as he's sitting there to create space that doesn't need to be jumped off the top. If that second student were to just jump off he or she could break their ankle at that point and slow up the line of properly getting off the bus. So we ask students to sit on their bottoms, jump off the bus, and that first student to help the individuals off the bus singly after that in a quick, orderly fashion. Also, there's front doors that you can exit off of. That would also probably be your first comment, but if that door were to be jammed, or if any kind of exterior door were to be jammed, we would ask that you maybe go out there's side windows. You can't see it in this diagram, but there's windows that will open up, and you can swing those out, as well as a top latch. If the bus, for God forbid, were to roll over, there's some latches up top that will open up with instructions of how to do that up top. So here's just another, some more bullet points on buses. Also have the latches, emergency windows, as I just briefly talked about, and all types of evacuations. You make sure you listen to the bus driver's instructions. We need to remain calm. We need to remain quiet. And we need to stay seated until we hear instructions of what's really going on. Now, if something were to happen to the bus driver and you weren't getting these instructions, this is when it's key to understand that these students know that they're in an emergency situation, and that practice that we use during our PE time really comes into use. They know how to take action. They know what to do. They know they're in a bad situation. They know where their rear exits are. They know where the front door exit is, and the windows and the latches. So, like I said, going over these situations physically in our PE times is super important. All right, here's just another slide that we're going to go over on slide 27. At any point, if y'all have questions, please just raise your hand. I know this is a lot of information. You can, I'll be sending out this this slideshow to every parent. If you want to briefly go over it with your students individually, towards the end of this, we'll kind of have some Q&As that we can go over as well, and I'm going to kind of give you a quiz sheet that I want y'all to go over as well. All right, so moving on to slide 27. In all types of evacuations, we need to understand that items that you carried on the bus are no longer important. What's important is you getting off that bus. If you think your cell phone is everything in the world to you, or your lunchbox, or your book bag that you have cool things inside of, leave it. It will slow you down. It will allow you not to properly leave. It will take up space. So we ask that all items get left behind. Just leave them alone. Get off the bus the way that we practice getting off the bus, and get to your safety. Once you get off the bus safely, we ask that you go 100 feet away from the bus. Just get away from the bus and find a safe zone. Don't run out into the streets. Don't run into incoming traffic. You need to find the safest area, whether it's a field, whether it's off the road. You need, at that point, get away from the bus and understand that you're in an emergency situation. We need to make sure that we're all staying within a group. We're not all running around. We're not panicking. We're staying in a group, and we know that we're in a safe area, and all minds that are there understand that they're in a safe area. We need to make sure that we're quiet as well. So we need to make sure that once we get into those groups that we wait for further instructions, whether it's emergency personnel or whether it's from the bus driver themselves. All right, so kind of finishing up here, these are just some slides that have the answers within them. You'll see as they're commonly going down here, a lot of these things I went over a lot. That's for a reason. For example, 12 feet. That is a common thing that needs to be burnt in your head because that is a danger zone. Those are the things, the numbers that we need to remember. Physically, we'll practice this. You'll understand what 12 feet looks like. That way we know that they're danger zones where they're at. So I'm going to leave this up. I'm actually going to, we'll turn the red off here, and I kind of want y'all to use this as a quiz. These are all questions. You need to quiz your students over it, your kids. We're going to ask all teachers, maybe at the beginning of the year, we're going to ask all teachers to pull this up after our presentation and kind of make sure that they're paying attention. Give them a quiz on it. And then understand that, let them know how important these kind of things are. So as I said, that we can find this slideshow. I'll make sure I email it out to all parents as well as administration. But this is a great slideshow just to understand that how important parents and parents allow us to be the administrators to our children. So we need to make sure that these safety instructions go into commonly practiced situations. So we understand how important your child's safety is. We want to make sure their safety's first. I know it seems super repetitive, but that's okay because these things can and will happen to people in our lifetime. So these is the best way to prepare for these things. These are commonly used numbers that are used statistically to be able to make sure you create safe for all these students. So if anybody has any questions, I'm going to finish this slide up. Just please email me. I'll turn this slide off here shortly for the presentation. But I appreciate everybody coming out and listening to this presentation, especially the parents. I understand that y'all care about these children's safety as we do as well. I hope this presentation, really you learned something from it. If not, you need to make sure that you're going over this again and understanding how important it is to ride a bus, get off a bus, know the emergency exits as well. As I said, we love safety, and we'll continue to practice safety as long as we are in school. So thank y'all very much. I hope everybody has a great evening. Please email me, as I said, if you have any questions. Thank you.